punishment shall be unending.
Today, I'm going to tell you why you should play. This one. There we are. Hello everybody, it's me, Sir Various. I'm coming to you today with more self-help tips, in the landscape of this dying fucking game, courtesy of these dumb fucks, every role in the game is fucking boring. And of the healers, this is especially true. At this point, you can probably solve the rotations with a fucking auto-clicker. Well, all of them except for one. So, in this barren wasteland of monotony where job identity is nothing more than a fading memory, one job remains, and it's this one baby, the Astrologian. And yes, it is pronounced Astrologian, not Astrologer or Astrologian. Blame Cody Fox, not me. Anyways, I'm not gonna pretend that I think Square Enix wants to re-add job identity and strategy and uniqueness into the game anytime soon. Hold out hope if you want, but even 8.0, which they did kind of say they wanted to have it added back in by, even that, I don't necessarily think there's a high chance at. And because of this, I wanted to talk to you guys about one of the few jobs in the game that I think maintains its job identity and its gameplay fantasy, and that's a very important thing, right? In any role-playing game, you want your player to feel like they are living out whatever gameplay fantasy their class is supposed to have, right? If your player is playing a Paladin, they should feel like a Paladin. If they're playing an Archer, they should feel like an Archer. The whole idea of a role-playing game is that you feel like you are playing your role, right? And with 14, especially as of the past few years, as the game keeps getting more and more streamlined, as is Yoshi P's favorite buzzword, we're really starting to lose the role-playing aspect of this RPG MMO. Personally, if you ask me, I think this is the result of Yoshi P and his team trying to cater to people who don't actually enjoy 14's combat when designing 14's combat, which is a whole tangent I could go on another time. For now, I want to talk about some of the positives that come with this job that I do quite like. And so, well, what is Astro's role? Astro, thematically, is a fortune-telling space mage. And so, through its kit, you want your player to feel like they are somehow able to tell the future, as well as, of course, manipulate the cosmos. And while you can kind of make the player feel like they're a space mage through just putting sparkly shit all over their spells, which, my god, Astro is a fucking walking glitter bomb, so they nailed that part. There are a few main parts of Astro's kit that really do a good job at making you feel like you actually are controlling an Astrologian. And the first part of that I want to talk about is the timed mechanics. So, Astro is a fortune teller, and 14's fights are very, very scripted. They're all kind of like a dance, like you learn the steps and then you just repeat the steps as well as you can, and that's basically all parsing is. It's just getting really good at some stupid little dance. And with everything being so scripted, having somebody know what's going to happen like 30 seconds before it actually happens is really not very high of an ask. And so what the Astro's kit actually has you do is take advantage of the fact that you do know what's going to happen before it happens by giving you a bunch of tools that go off after a set delay. And if you can optimize the fact that they're going to have their desired effect a set amount of time after you press them, you can net pretty significant rewards through just paying more attention to the fact that you know what's going to happen before it happens, down to the second. The most prominent example in Astro's kit is its earthly star. I think in the footage we have here, yeah, you actually see me place one right now. And what this does is it places this little tiny ball of light on the ground. It is a budding star, and with time, this little tiny star will get stronger and stronger until it reaches critical mass, and it will then detonate, or you could detonate it by yourself manually, preferably after it reaches critical mass. And this is such an incredibly powerful tool that any Astro player, whether they be a competent one or completely new to the role, is going to want to capitalize on this in some way, shape, or form. It's not even like a high-end optimization thing. You kind of just think to yourself, well, I need this to be ready whenever the big damage comes out on my party so I can heal them. So you start to look at, if I place it right here, will it be ready when I need it? And already you've got players who maybe aren't that big into 14's endgame, or they're highly focused on the combat, actually exploring Astro's gameplay fantasy, just because of how the job is designed. And I think that's kind of beautiful as far as game design goes. There are some other examples like Macrocosmos, which is, I don't think we have it in this footage, but effectively the Astro will create this storm of little tiny star shards, or like comets or something, coming down. And this will apply a buff to its allies that will then store up 50% of the damage that the Astro's allies take, and then kind of refund that taken damage as a heal. Another tool that requires the Astro to know what's going to happen before it happens. Because, right, Macrocosmos doesn't do anything if you don't actually take damage while you have it. So, as an Astro player, you'll get yourself into this sort of swing of trying to make as much use out of Earthly Star and Macrocosmos as you can, and thus, that fortune teller theming is reached pretty well as tying in the astromancy. It's a lovely way to allow the player to experience the, well, fantasy of being an Astro through just simply having them play the job in the way that is most rewarding. And with a lot of other jobs in the game right now, I feel like you don't really get that same experience. You play the job well, it doesn't necessarily feel like you are engaging in whatever role your job is supposed to fill. Like, Dark Knight sure as hell doesn't feel like a Dark Knight when you're doing its rotation. It kind of feels like a dinky-ass Shadow Mage, honestly. A lot of jobs suffer from this. Like, I have no idea what Sage is supposed to feel like, because it's a job that doesn't have any higher mechanics. There's nothing going on with Sage. And it's disappointing. But back to Astro for a moment, I want to talk about the utility as well. Because after Astro had its sort of rework from being able to cook up a ridiculous cocktail of buffs that could do just about anything under the sun back in 4.0, it lost a lot of its depth, and suddenly it was replaced with having just an absurdly high APM, which was undeniably a stronger form of the Astro, but it wasn't necessarily as cool. And I think in the Dawntrail version of the Astro, they tried to make it less demanding to play by removing the ridiculously high barrier to entry that came with having to have such a high APM to apply all the rapid-fire buffs that you used to have to handle. And so instead, they've just simply given it an absolutely copious amount of single-target utility actions. Like, I think you have 10 or 11 single-target buffs/heals that you have to dish out. It's to a point where you could actually go through your whole party with single-target off-globals, double weaving every single GCD, instead of casting an AoE heal if you don't have one ready and you don't want to lose damage by casting Helios. It's kind of insane. But this ridiculously vast bag of tricks, all these different types of utility that you have, really do allow the Astro to have that support mage playstyle that at least I definitely look for in a job. And in other MMOs, I feel like it's quite easy to come by, but in 14 it kind of feels like it's either Astro or bust. I don't think there really is a job that has such incredibly diverse utility in its kit. And that's another thing that leans into what Astro has always been, you know? The job that has all kinds of different utility just sitting in this little bag that it can just pass you at a moment's notice in the form of the cards. It's lovely, as I said earlier. Now, to be very honest, do I think that Astro, being one of the few jobs that still holds on to its old identity in some way or another, is going to save 14 from dying? No, I really don't. And do I think 14 is dying, as a matter of fact? Not necessarily, but I do think for the first time ever, we're seeing 14 in a position where it could start dying. I don't think it started dying yet, but I think if they don't turn course, we're definitely going in that direction where things could go bad. My personal belief as to why 14 is dying is a number of things. There definitely is some contribution from Yoshi P being reluctant to create a game that is designed for the people who like the game for its gameplay, as well as Square Enix just refusing to put their funding into 14. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure 14 receives the same funding. Oh, bump the mic there. I think it receives the same funding as, like, an indie game. If you look at the financial reports that Square Enix has received the past, like, year, you'll see that more than 75% of their income is coming from Final Fantasy XIV, and that is not including, like, sales on, like, Dawntrail itself. I'm not even sure if that includes sales on the full game. That might just be subs. And then we look at what Square Enix is actually doing with 14, and we're seeing it's taking them, like, 4 months to put out any meaningful content patch, and any race that was added into the game after, like, 2017 doesn't have any confirmation that they can actually wear hats that are being made, like, brand new for the cash shop. It's actually laughable. And then you can look at where Square Enix keeps putting their money as well, like fucking Cloud Strife NFTs, which happened with one president who then got fired, and then the next one was like, yeah, NFTs are still the way. I don't know, man. I feel like there's a lot of stuff going on with Square Enix, and a lot of poor decisions that Yoshi P is making that's leading to us being in this weird situation where players just feel like there's nothing to do. And now that Dawntrail's horrible story has come and gone, those incredibly loyal players who never engaged with the gameplay, beyond just playing the MSQ, are also feeling neglected, so we'll have to see what happens to 14, but in the meantime, I wanted to make this video talking about how Astro felt like it had a few of the makings of what used to make jobs feel promising and enjoyable back in the day. And while we never really know if we'll ever see old 14 back again, I mean, I would kill for a Stormblood re-release, just 4.0 released as it was. I would never play retail again if they gave me that alternative. But anyways, I believe that's all I've got for you guys today. Just wanted to talk a bit about this, something that felt relevant to the current miserable status that 14's in. So, I thank you kindly for watching. If you did, go ahead and subscribe, like, tell me what you think in the comments if you'd be so inclined to do so, and well, I'll see you around, hopefully soon. Peace.